Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Scarecrow, and welcome to Closet Movie Rambles, where I talk about all movies that I found in my closet while cleaning. This week's movie is Underworld Evolution. It's an action movie from 2006, and it's about 1 hour and 42 minutes long, starring Kate Beckinsale, Scott Speedman, and Tony Kråkan. And the movie starts with explaining the origins of the war between lichens and vampires. There were two immortal brothers, one named Marcus and the other one named William. One was bitten by bat, and the other were bitten by wolf, and basically turning into the first vampire and lichen werewolf hybrids. And then we cut to a medieval village in 1202 AD, and it's basically the desecration of the first lichen, William. And his brother is following William in his desecration and destruction of the world. Basically try to stop him, or at least reason with him. So Marcus, by this point, he has an army of underling vampires. And his lieutenants, or those pretty much under him, are named Victor and Amelia. And they are in the other movies as well. Yeah, in the previous movie, I should say. And they arrive in the village, and all the villagers are dead. They think they are dead, but so Victor ordered them to burn the corpses, because if they turn, they will have a massive problems on their hand, which is exactly what happens before they even start to burn the bodies. They turn into lichens, and there is a fight. And Victor sends Marcus away because if he dies, basically they all die, because he's the source. And then Victor later, he finds William, and they pinpoint him down with these kind of crossbows with metal chains on them. They kind of pull him down to the ground. And Marcus is kind of upset by this, because after all, it's his brother. And what would you have me do? Or some kind of follow-up to that line. And Victor kind of tells him that he will imprison William for all eternity, or for as long as it takes. And then we cut to Celine in present day, basically explaining what happened in the previous movie, because this is a sequel to the first Underworld movie. And she explains the plot, and basically that she fell in love with this descendant of Alexander Corvinus called Michael, and he has this kind of hybrid blood, so he turned into this hybrid werewolf kind of thing. And that's basically what she's explaining. She's playing the plot of the first movie. And then we cut to Michael and Celine heading for a safe house out in the woods. And she basically gears up, and she tells them basically that he should stay there until she returns. And then we cut back to the vampire mansion, and the character of Craven he's kind of the caretaker when Victor and Marcus are gone, or the other elders are asleep. So he enters the chamber, and some blood have dripped down into Marcus's kind of coffin. It's underground, it's like a suspensible coffin or something. And he orders his group to open the coffin. And then they open it, it's pulled up, and they look inside, and they see there's no one there, and the floor cracks open. And Marcus arrives. He's more of a bat than a human at this point, and he, by feeding on Craven's blood, he kind of gets the inside of what he's seen. There's some kind of genetic memory through the bloodstream, and he kind of gets the information he wants, and then he kills Craven and everyone else. And then cutting to Alexander, which is basically the father of William and Marcus, and him hacking, or he's kind of the overseer. He kind of sees to, or watches over his son, so he kind of cleans up after him as well. He's kind of this observing character, and he look at the security feed of the vampire mansion and see that the Marcus is awake in what he's done. And meanwhile, this is going on also. Marcus has done an autopsy on Victor, because in the first movie he kind of died by the hand of Celine, and somehow Alexander has obtained the body, so he does an autopsy, and he opens up the chest of Victor and picks out this medallion, which is somehow strapped or kind of screwed to a chest. And Marcus goes through the security footage, and he finds out that Michael the hybrid is alive, so he's gonna go after him for some reason, I don't know, because he got all the memories from that Craven had, and he kind of gets the story and everything like that. And then Michael leaves because he's hungry. He's been told to feed by Celine, because otherwise he gets weak. He won't make it, basically. So he goes out to this tavern, and he goes inside, and people kind of look weird at him because he's an outsider, and then he kind of orders foods, something to eat, basically. And outside, Celine sees Victor arriving, flying in on his bat wings, and she runs back and returns to the safe house. And then cutting back to Michael, and he's trying to eat, but because he's a hybrid, he can't really eat the food, so he's in pain, and he kind of starts to scream, and two guards kind of raise their guns at him. In the background, the TVs are showing pictures of Michael. He's a wanted man by the authority at this point. So the guards point their gun at him, or the police, and he pukes because of the food, and the restaurant guest leaves, and Michael turns into this lichen werewolf beast form, and he escapes. And the other police, they call him for backup, and Michael runs out. He escapes into the woods, and the police follows him. And Alexander's crew, the strike team, kind of intercepts the call on the police radio, and they kind of find out about his location. And outside in the woods, Michael is taking cover by some trees or something, and Celine arrives and help him gun down some of the police, and she offers him some blood so that he would kind of get stronger. And then Marcus arrives, and Michael fires upon him with a gun, and they kind of they steal a truck, and they drive away. And Celine drives the truck, and Michael is on the back of it, and he fights Marcus in both in beast form, and they kind of fight each other, and it goes on and off. And Celine fires her gun, basically, and pushes Marcus against the rock face, and he basically gets shredded against between the truck and the rock wall, and they kind of drive away. But because Marcus is the first of his kind, he's more or less impossible to kill. It takes very much damage for him to kill, so he kind of just shrug off, and he kind of like cracks his wing or something. And Michael and Celine continues to drive, but the sun is rising, so Michael has to take over the wheels because Celine is a vampire, so she can't stand the sunlight because it will basically kill her, burn her up. So they drive into this shed, and Michael kind of rushes out of the truck, and he closes every door and window, and he throws paint on the window to black everything out, so that basically Celine can basically be safe. Then this is kind of funny. Cutting to Alexander, cutting to Marcus, and then cutting to the police again. And the police has found the safe house that Michael and Celine were staying at in the first place. And then Alexander's strike team drops in and basically blows everything up. And there's a love scene there also with Michael and Celine. It's kind of unnecessary, but they are lovers, but it was kind of forced upon. And later Celine wakes up from Michael actually trying to start a car and making a ruckus, and she looks at this medallion that they found after the fight with Marcus. And by basically looking at it, she has a flashback to when she was a little girl. And then Marcus wakes up in his cavern. And then Celine and Michael goes to see Thanis. Is that because that's the one lead they have left? And Thanis at this point he's been exiled. He was in the Rise of the Lycan movies, and he's basically this traitor kind of turncoat guy. He basically just does everything to save his skin. So he's been making deals between Lycans and vampires, and that's like something that's forbidden basically. So he was kind of exiled to this monastery, and Celine and Michael basically arrives there, and Celine falls down some trapdoors to trap, and she fights off some Lycans, and on top side Michael turns into a Lycan himself and fights off other Lycans. And Celine finds her way into the keep of Thanis, and she kills off two other vampire ladies or girls, and then confronts Thanis. Thanis is holding a shotgun and threatening her, and Michael just jumps through the window and pushes him against the wall. And Celine says, "We have to talk." And then Thanis explains that Marcus was the first of his kind, and that Victor really wasn't Celine's real father. Celine's real father helped build a tomb to imprison William in the first place. And Thanis also gives Celine and Michael the location of Alexander Corvinus, so they can get to him, get some more information. And Celine, at this point, she has the memory of the location, where it is. And also she has the physical key to open the tomb. But they're going to find Alexander first. And after they leave, Marcus arrives and finds Thanis, and he talks to him, try to get some information from him. But instead of talking, he takes some of his blood, basically runs him dry, and he learns by genetic memory everything that's happened up to this point. And Celine and Michael arrives at Alexander Corvinus' boat, and they get an audience with him. And they talk to him, and he explains that he has basically just been cleaning up through the millennia for both of his sons' sake, and he's basically just been an observer. And Celine says something like, "Why couldn't you just kill them? Could you?" And he says like, "Can you really kill, or could you kill your own sons?" And then Marcus arrives and starts killing Alexander's crew topside of the boat. And Michael fights Marcus, and he gets impaled on a wooden stake. And Celine tries to help, but at this point Marcus is so powerful that he just pins her to a wall, and he also drinks her blood. So now he has the location, and he steals her medallion also. So he has the memory from her blood, the genetic memory, and the key to William's location. So he flies off. Celine tries to revive Michael. Try to help him from the stake, but he can't move him. He's dead, and she tries her vampire blood try to heal him, but that doesn't work either. And Marcus confronts his father in his room, and they talk and argue a bit about William and himself and what he has become. And Marcus more or less kills Alexander outright, or mortally wound him with a sword. And he says something like, "A true God doesn't have a father." And then he leaves because he has everything he needs to rescue and find William and open the door to the tomb, basically. And then after this mess, he flies off. And then Alexander's strike team arrives on Shopper, and they find Alexander in a pool of his own blood, and he basically calls out to find Celine and bring her here. And he does so. And he offers his own immortal blood, because he's the source, a pure-blooded source. He can give, through the power of his blood, the power that Celine needs to defeat Marcus. And she offers it and takes the blood. And the strike team takes Celine, and they take Michael in a a body bag and brings him on the chopper, and they basically take him to the tomb and William's location. And meanwhile, this is going on the boat, Alexander Corvinus kind of sets off a bunch of bombs and blows up every evidence of his existence. And then they arrive at the location, and Celine kind of knows this place from memory because she were there when she was a child. Her father and lots of others built it, so she knows the way. And they kind of arrive. They swim in. Underneath there's some caverns, and they swim up and into the complex. And Marcus finds the tomb of William and open it up and sets his brother out. And Celine goes after Marcus, and she kind of imprisons him in William's tomb, and William escapes, and he bites and kills off the strike team. And Celine basically returns, and she goes after William. She uses some explosive, some throwing stars explosive kind of things. She blows up the roof so that the sun drops in, but nothing big of a deal. And then the strike team wakes up and turning into lichens. And meanwhile, this is going on. Michael is magically awoken on the chopper, and he turns and he goes after to help Celine and basically fight off the strike team. And they basically try to fight William. And Marcus escaped William's cell by lifting up the door because it hasn't gone all the way through the water. He kind of pushes it up. And then there is a fight between William and Michael and Celine and Marcus. So in this fight, Michael kind of bends off William's jaw, and he breaks it, and killing William in the process. And Marcus yells out his brother's name, William, and he stabs Celine in the shoulder, and Celine kind of breaks off his wing and breaks it off, and pierces up through his skull, and kicks him into the rotor blade of the chopper, which I forgot to tell, but Marcus kind of pulled down from the sky by a rope, one of those zip lines. He kind of pulled down the chopper it was kind of a ridiculous scene, and Celine kind of kicks him into the rotor blades, and there's some just chunks of meat, kind of a really bad CG effect. And then the sun rises, and Celine realizes that she can, by the power of the Corvinus blood, she can actually tolerate the sunlight. And then the movie kind of ends. So, can I recommend this movie to anyone? Well, not really. It's one of those movies that they didn't really need to make, in my opinion, because they could have made like the first movie, and then they follow up with Rise of the Lycans, which kind of is this I already talked about in another review, with this prequel movie. This sequel kind of, it doesn't serve any purpose and so on. But I think there was another follow-up upon this movie where things goes even more south. But I can't really recommend this movie, and it's kind of an unnecessary entry in the series. That's my opinion. But I hope you like this, and have a great evening, and take care.